Can I tell you to break clean, watch yourself at all times, shake hands now, may the best man win. Good luck to both of you.
Round one, there's the bell. Speed called by very expert, the uncrowned heavyweight champion.
Welcome into another episode of That's Boxing Podcast. I'm Dust, and I'm here with the sleeveless coach.
Yes, man, the sun's out, the guns are out.
Yeah, I don't know about guns. Pea shooters,
Hey, bud.
you know?
Hey, you want to see what kind of damage these guns can do?
I don't, actually. I don't.
Yeah, you couldn't handle it.
That's probably true. No, I give you my respect. Well, thanks for squeezing me in between the gym today. We had to get in and break down this action last night. I was falling asleep watching boxing. That's how when you got back-to-back cards, that's what happens.
To live and die by the sword, man. You'd be snoring, watching boxing, dreaming about boxing. I don't know what was a dream and what was reality.
That's true. I woke up halfway through the fight. I was like, Farmer won. No. Oh, shit. It's the 11th round. Oh, no.
Man, I was watching that. I was having dreams of like 1983 with the quality of the video I was getting from DAZN.
You don't just remember 1983 when you were like 15, though?
I was -2, man.
All right. Well, hey, we got some big news to break. I feel like we should maybe...
Let's lead, man. Let's break the news. It's hot. It's sizzling. It's coming off the griddle.
Hot off the presses. Where are we going on Friday?
We're going to Las Vegas.
Las Vegas. Backcountry.
We're going back to the Mecca of boxing to make our debut on Press Row.
That's right. That's Boxing Podcast is going to be press credentialed up for the Kiki Torres Guido Vieino fight that we've been hyping already. Honestly,
We've been hyping Kiki since the first episode.
They don't even have to put us on to do it, but now they are. So we'll be there. Thank you very much, Top Rank, and looking forward to being ringside, being at the weigh-in, being at the post-fight press, and asking questions. So if anyone out there has got questions that's burning for any of these fighters, please slide in the DMs and let us know so that we can ask.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of action on this card. You know, the heavyweight main event and all the way down. We got Abdullah Mason bringing the smoke show to town. So, you know, we got a lot of great opportunities as a podcast to go out here and show these guys what we're made of and get some good interviews, get some sound bites, and have an up-close impression of the fight to bring back and give our breakdown, not from watching on TV, but from watching live in person.
That's right. I mean, it's actually a sneaky good card. I'm excited about it. You know, Top Rank back-to-back weekends, but I like this card and excited to be there and excited to ask some inflammatory questions about boxers' careers and why they're so derailed.
Wow, man, you gonna bring your mouth guard and get ready for some counter punches?
I think that's maybe the thing. Who was it? Showbiz getting hit by Canelo.
Yeah. Punch me when I say somebody better than you.
Right. Yeah. No, it was punch me until I say somebody better than you. Right. That's why you got punched so many times.
No, it was punch me when I say somebody better than you. So he was scared to say, like, he was like, Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. And he was like, oh, he's going to totally punch you. But then he did. But when he said Bivol, then he hit him. He said, on that night, he was better than me.
Right.
And he hit him for Mayweather, too. But he only hit him for the guys that he actually beat. He thinks he's better than everybody else. But that was cool. Showbiz, I mean, it's great. You see, the landscape of journalism is changing. You know, these guys can be viral sensations, they're hilarious content creators, and then they get access to the stars, you know, because of their access to the public. It's a great connection. You know, 20, 30 years ago, even 10 years ago, that wouldn't have been a thing. You know, this, you know, would have been some guy in a fedora with a notepad. Man, well, so how was your training camp this time? You know, and these fighters, I think they like the engagement of the modern era of journalism. And I think we're going to bring our own spin to that. So can't wait to get down there and get to work.
I feel like I was built for that other era. You know, I don't want to blind rank boxers. I don't have hot take questions to ask people. I want to get in there and get technical.
Yeah, we're not going to be clickbait nerds. We're definitely going to talk boxing. I think our angle is going to be talking about really the technical side of boxing, like asking specific questions about their tactics, their trainings, their punching, their style. And I know boxers are going to be engaged by that because this is what they live and breathe. We're not going to ask generic questions. On the other hand, we're not going to ask silly questions. We're going to ask real good, pointed questions. And like Dust said, if you guys got any ideas, any questions you want to, you want us to propose to these fighters and coaches, just hit us up. And if it's good enough, it might make it in there.
And I'll tell you, if it's good enough and you haven't left us a podcast 5-star review, that you're getting deleted, you're getting blocked, you're getting banned. So make sure you start with that 5-star review and then go ahead and give us your questions.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we're taking this seriously now.
We're gatekeepers now. We're gatekeeping ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Well, let's get into last night. You catch all the fights. Which one did you go with live? This felt very like Top Rank, Golden Boy, head to head. Which one do I watch live? My allegiance went to Top Rank.
Yeah, I was with Top Rank all night. I didn't switch over till round 5 at Tevin Farmer, so I missed Colosso. I missed everything else in Mexico. I only caught the second half of the Farmer Zepeda fight. So I was tuned in from the opening bell, waiting impatiently for the card to start on ESPN, and I watched everything I could see. We had the local kid from up this way, Dedrick Crocklim, making his not his pro debut, but his televised debut. He had a fight up here at the Emerald Queen Casino just a month or two ago. So this was his coming out party though, and so that was cool to watch him work. And I watched everything else that night.
How did he do?
He got a first round stoppage.
There you go.
Honestly, I think it was an early stoppage. It was early. He was landing at will, but he was like pot shotting. He was just whop whop whop. He wasn't really like, the dude was getting. He was riding with the punch. He was okay.
Right. Was it kind of a safety stoppage? Like this is just too brutal to watch? Or
I mean, the 130-pound guys coming out, it looked to me like the guy could have hung around for another round. They could have given Crocklim a chance to really get to work. As Bradley said, he said, well, I didn't really even see anything. Because like, what do you think about young Crocklim? He's like, I didn't even see nothing, man.
Right.
Like, he didn't even give it a chance to show us what he's made of. He's obviously talented, but the opponent, they pulled him out a little early. It's like, why even have the fight if you're going to be that protective? Like the guy never got knocked down. He never really got wobbled. He was just getting hit clean with everything. But hey, this is boxing, man. Come on, let the guy fight.
Boxing. Hey, at least you get something like that on the resume on the box rack, and it builds the hype. And now people, hey, they'll just come back in a couple months and do it again.
Yeah,
that's eventually people will get to see the work.
Yeah, no doubt at all. I mean, the referee they had in the Shushu fight, he was just letting that kid get murdered in there.
That's where I was going. That's right when I tuned in was the end of the prelims, which I do not understand why Shushu cannot be bumped to the main event. I know it's on ESPN, and so we got to like keep it tight. And they think the public only wants to see 2 fights, but man, put some respect on my guy here. He got back in the KO column, and man, he was just sharpshooting, sniping that guy, just vicious one-off punches, putting work together. And I agree. I thought the ref could have stopped it a lot earlier. But still, by the 3rd round, that was it.
Yeah, violent punching, clean shots landing. Dude's legs are gone. And the referee's just looking at him.
Well, he gave him the opportunity, I think, to come back, and he wasn't going down. And I don't know. I mean, I don't envy that position of being the one to have to call the fight, because you're just saying, okay, that's it. I'm the decider of who's won and who's lost when this guy's still standing and maybe in the fight. But yeah, there is that point where you just say, okay, so that one was CTE. All right, that one's
the corner should have thrown in the towel, or the referee should have stopped it before it did. But dominant display. But we knew that was going to happen. We said he was getting a soft touch, and he was, trying to come back off that Segawa fight, which put some questions in the air. And now he's saying, okay, I got a KO for the first time in the last 2 fights. Didn't have a KO. Now I got a KO. So, that's what he's supposed to do. He was supposed to do it. The referee just could have stopped it a little bit earlier.
Yeah. So now he's in line to face, what's his name? Stephen Fulton.
Yeah, he did call out some names, man, and Fulton was one of them. I think that's a great fight.
Great fight. Fulton coming off a dominant performance where he was the underdog, kind of answering some questions that were lingering out there about him, and now it feels like both of them are ascending and moving in the right direction. And man, that's a headline or co-headline fight for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Huge fight on the East Coast if they make that happen.
Who do you favor if you had to pick right now?
Sheesh, that's hard to say. I want to say Fulton from his experience. He's fought better guys. He should be able to adapt and beat this younger. Well, we say younger, but we know the kid ain't that young. He's 27. But still, fresher fighter, you could say, maybe. Less experienced.
Yeah.
Fulton's been in there with some of the best in the world. So
I got to favor his experience overall. But he moved up more recently, right? His career 122 and
after the Naoya Inoue loss, he moved up to 126, where he just fought and won in his rematch at the higher weight class, and he earned a belt off that.
Right, and then he defended with Figueroa, where he looked great, was the underdog. I don't know, Carrington just feels like the bigger guy to me. And so,
he's got a nice punch too.
Yeah.
He's got such a sharp, crispy punch that Fulton's going to have to box smart the whole time, but he's got the skill set to do it. But if he can do what he did in his last fight, but the last fight certainly was no Carrington. That guy was throwing a bunch of feather duster punches,
Yeah, and couldn't figure out what he wanted to do. Was just kind of following him around the ring, letting him fight off the back foot. Shushu's not going to let him do that. But I go with you with the experience, but it's a great fight. Great fight. They should set it up. Well, on to the main card. Brian Norman Jr., we called this one. Double called it. I bet the KO, and you bet the early KO, and that's exactly how it went down. He looked dominant, looked like a puncher. I like what he said after the fight. He said, "Man, I don't care if someone hasn't fought me, they haven't fought anybody."
What a throwback interview! I thought that was classy, old school, straight out of 1980s. Like very cool, very smooth. No bullshit. No corniness. Just legit.
Mm-hmm.
Like he really, I said on the last pod when I was out there at the beach, I said the guy's, standing in the doorway. It's time to step through, and he really did. He stepped through the door. Don, did you catch that in the first round? Did he do a little stanky leg? Did his knees?
Yeah. I was freaking out because he got clipped and got the wobble legs, and I was like, oh.
But for the briefest second,
he recovered super fast.
His recovery was super fast, and he got clipped with a left hook or something, and his legs shook just a little. And I said, whoa, now. And then he seemed like it never happened.
Yep.
What a recovery. But it did spell danger right away. And I texted you, said, this is a banger, because these guys are throwing hammers at each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then that left hook, man, found its target multiple times, put dude on shaky legs. He couldn't unshake him. He did not have recovery skills. Even with the break in between rounds, he came out a damaged man.
Yeah.
From that first initial wobble he got, which he didn't actually go down off of, he never really recovered.
I was worried watching Norman because he was throwing my favorite punch, which is the leaping left. Right. And it's super athletic, but it didn't seem like the right way to close the distance. And he was really exposing himself and dropping the right hand as he was doing it and got the stanky legs. And I was like, I don't know if this is the right approach. You look like if you just settled down and boxed a little bit more and came in behind the jab with your feet on the ground, you'd put it together. And I think he started to do that towards the middle of the second round. And then it wasn't until the third that he stopped him.
Yeah. Beautiful stoppage. Great power punching. Vintage display of boxing. A dangerous fight. But he hung right in there and fought fire. I told you I thought it was going to be an early stoppage because this dude was going to come forward and try to brawl with him, and that's exactly what a puncher like Norman needs to shine. Mm-hmm. The guy wasn't trying to avoid him, wasn't trying to evade him. He was just there to get hit, and hit he did get.
So he's got the Glamour division, welterweight belt. I remember a couple months ago we were talking about how 147 is where everything's at and 154 is like completely desolate ghost town. But now it feels like the opposite. Everyone at 147 moved up to 154 chasing Crawford. And now I'm like, who's at 147? It's Norman and Boots.
That's the fight to make. The winner of Boots Stanionis needs to fight Brian Norman Jr. That's what's got to happen.
That'd be good if Boots can stay around long enough to unify, which feels like the only reason he's still there. I think the Crawford fight's out the window. He's fighting Canelo and retiring. So this is the one to make. I like it. On to the main event, Michaela Mayer and Sandy Ryan. I took the coach's special on this one. I laid a lot on the draw. I don't know what I was thinking.
That was not advised by Coach on this one.
It was just, I would said on the last spot, I think there's a 10% chance it could be a draw. And obviously at plus 1,600, plus 1,800, whatever the hell it was, that's pretty good for a 10% chance. And their first fight might as well have been a draw. And it felt like this had it written all over it. I got to say, fucking 2-minute rounds, man. Get 2-minute rounds and 10 rounds? Absurd. At least give me 15 rounds if they're going to be 2 minutes. It's so fast. It's just they run out, pummel each other with the feather dusters, and then run back to your corner. And then just repeat over and over. It doesn't give enough time for things to develop, But that's what happened, more or less a continuation of the first fight, except Mayer turned on the jets. She looked like she was prepared for everything. When Sandy came out, she had a lot of that like Shakur step back distance defense, right? Where you don't do a lot of lateral movement. You just make them miss going straight back. And I thought, okay, this is really interesting. She's going to try to counterpunch. But Mayer just really adjusted to that quickly, pushed her forward, stood in the pocket, or kept her at the end of the punches. And either way, it looked like she got the better of every exchange in the fight and put on a pretty dominant performance. Yeah,
she was throwing really crispy combinations, finishing with the hook well. Looked very well prepared. Just was really committing and confident in her punches. and that's why she kept catching Ryan cold in the over and over again. And homegirl was pretty banged up. I thought Ryan looked a little shell shocked, like, oh shit, this isn't going the way I thought it would. I thought her game plan in the beginning was effective with the pullback and the evasiveness. Not going to run forward, not going to be an emotional boxer. But then she was just letting the round slip away, and it was clearly going to be a Mayer round because Ryan wasn't working enough. And especially in these 2-minute rounds, you don't have time to be cute and then finish strong. You have to just be strong the whole time. I think it would have been better if Ryan went out there and fought with her emotions on her sleeve and just went hell for leather the whole time, like they did in the later part of the rounds. And when the crowd was on their feet, and I said, wow, this is an inspiring performance by both fighters there towards the end, with the blood coming down from the headbutt and Mayer, just throwing like her life depended on it, and Ryan digging in and throwing back. The crowd's on their feet, they're screaming and yelling. I thought it was great. It was a fantastic performance of effort. But your comment about feather dusters got me thinking while I was watching it, and I thought, man, how, like, so many good clean punches landed, but not a wobble to be seen, not a bent knee, not a shudder in the spine as we see. And especially after watching Brian Norman's punching power. And I'm like, damn, like, and not to say women can't knock people out, Clarissa Shields, she's a fucking hell of a puncher, she'll put a chick down hard. But these girls at 147, I'm like, where's the power at? That's the next step of development for Michaela Mayer, as she's been developing and getting better. Now she said she's at the right weight class. Well, let's see some power now, because if you're landing that clean, that repetitively, you should be starting to see somebody go down.
With your feet planted. I mean,
Yeah.
she was good at moving and then stopping and trading and planting the feet, but no shots to Clarissa Shields. She'd knock me out, but, she got 3 knockouts and 16 wins, right? She's not putting people down, even as a heavyweight. And it's almost makes it harder to score. That's kind of where I'm at, is like, I'm watching it and I'm trying to, and I think Michaela won the fight, no doubt, right? But you're like looking at it and you're like, man, okay, it's so fast. And all the punches seem to have the same effect. So it's basically just number of punches basically landed. It just looks like a tally. It's when you're looking for something like a little bit more definitive or any of those kind of moments, and there really aren't any, because you never see that.
Yeah. I thought Ryan walked into some big punches and took them well. The headbutt almost changed the course of the fight. When the blood started getting in her eye, I thought, oh, this was an unfortunate turn of events, but this might at least favor Ryan here in the back half of the fight. And it might have a little, but it was Mayer all day. And, I think the beef is settled and the score is settled, and then we won't see a rubber match on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I'd watch another one just because the first one was so close, and, I don't know. You always say, what, if they fight 10 times, maybe Mayer wins 6 or maybe it's 7, something like that. I think she's the better boxer, and I'm sure she wants to move on, as she should. She had the little red paint on her trunks, fucking with her a little bit.
Yeah, is that an admission of guilt or just messing
I don't
her
think
with
so.
her?
I think it was tough. She looks like she's gonna cry every time you interview her, and then they cut to them interviewing her and they ask her about that night and she starts crying. And I was like, man, am I a bad person that I just don't like? It sucks. Whoever did it shouldn't have done it, but also, like, really? I don't know. I'm just trying to picture my response, what it would be to that. And I feel like it wouldn't be like horrific. I don't think I'd be like have generational trauma.
Remember when like Conor McGregor threw a chair through the window
Of a bus
that
and
had
started like
Khabib
a
on
brawl.
it?
Yeah, exactly.
Like Khabib was, there's a lot of other people on that bus too.
Yeah.
It's like there's definitely weird things that happen. But that does seem like bit of a heavy reaction. She might want to talk to a professional about that.
Like that you might have to be able to move past something like that in order to lock in and focus boxing wise.
Yeah, I heard her say to the corner before the last round or before the second to last round, no matter what happens, I love you guys. And I thought, oh, that's sweet, but it seems like you're already lost.
Right.
Like what do you mean no matter what? She knew she was losing.
Yeah.
And the commentators at one point said she needs a knockdown or a knockout to win this fight. And after watching all the clean punches landed, nobody. I was like,
that's not gonna happen.
There's no knockouts happening in this fight.
It's funny because when I was watching the fight with the step back defense, I was like, oh man, if she had a plus reach on Michaela, she could do some damage here. But as the shorter fighter, I don't think it works that way. And then the commentator Bradley's like, yeah, and Sandy, got the 1.5 inch reach, and I had to look it up, and I'm like, damn, she has plus reach on her. how it looks to me like maybe I don't really trust these measurements. Like boxers' heights are all bullshit. Like Tyson Fury's not 6'9", all right, guy's 6'6" or whatever. But that was bizarre to me.
She boxes pretty squared up, and she was looking for like a right hand counter, like pull back right hand. Mm-hmm. It's a hard trick to pull off, and I think Mary stands a little bit more bladed, so she looks longer, works behind the jab a little bit better.
It looked like she had her at the tip of the punch, and Sandy had some serious distance to cover to get in there. But you're right, if you're looking for the pull counter, even if you're square, your right shoulder is still further away from the opponent, right? So it's, it doesn't lend itself to judging the distance that way.
Well, hopefully they can move on with their careers. I'm tired of hearing about this nonsense drama about this trainer and that trainer and the thing with the paint. It's like, come on, man, let's just focus on boxing here. It's like, it's not Love Island, I don't really give a fuck.
Well, they'll move on, and let's move on to the DAZN card, the rematch that we were hyping, and I think, man, it lived up to it. It was a pretty crazy fight. Tevin Farmer and William Zepeda 2. Zepeda comes out, Farmer comes out, pretty much just like the 13th round or I guess the 11th round, a continuation of their last fight. I don't know why this one was 12 rounds and the last one was 10. They just decided, well, let's do 2 more rounds. But continuation, and then I think it was the 3rd round, Farmer did something, man, like hit his elbow, and he was messed up. He was on skates. People were screaming to take a knee, but he didn't. He looked like an absolute warrior out there. Kept standing, didn't touch the canvas, but came back to the corner, really holding that arm and that hand, and something was wrong. And for about 4 rounds, he looked like he was nursing it. And Zepeda really put it on him. So much pressure, throwing, 80 plus punches around, and, really just kind of swept maybe 2 or 3 through 7 or 8. And I think that was too big a deficit for Farmer to get out of without something big happening. He did knock him down, but it wasn't scored a knockdown. Kind of a push punch weird thing. Totally dominated the end of the fight, closing couple rounds, but it just wasn't enough. Was very impressed to see one of the judges, even in Mexico, rule it a draw. But Zepeda gets the majority draw, and I guess potentially moves on from this. And I doubt we'll see a trilogy.
Well, the judge who scored it a draw is actually Canadian.
There you go. You can always trust the Canucks.
He just wants everything to be fair and everybody to be happy.
I couldn't vote against anyone.
I mean, they both just tried so hard. So no, I got distracted and I tuned in the 5th round. I turned the switch over, and my first impression is like, what the hell is this video quality? I don't know if everybody was experiencing that.
No, that's how it looked.
But I was like one camera was clear, and then it would switch to another one, and it looked like it was 1983. And
it is in Mexico.
And what's his name?
Since Trump put the tariff on, it's now a different year in Mexico.
It is a different year. What's his name? Sergio Mora. His microphone sounded like it had a sock over it or something.
Yeah.
He couldn't hear him very well at all. The production team was all kinds of weird. And Top Rank had their problems too, though. If you tuned in at the very beginning of the card, the whole first fight, no audio.
For the prelims?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
but down there in DAZN, I turned it on down there in Mexico, and here's Farmer just getting hammered against the ropes. The crowd's going crazy. So I just tuned in to watch the end of this fight, apparently. Holy shit, what have I missed? And then I gathered the backstory and figured out what had happened with the hand. And then Farmer was making the adjustments, doing his best Pernell Whitaker impersonation to step back and slip and dodge and weave. And he used every trick in the book to stay in that fight. Mm-hmm. I mean, the story of the fight is, can Zepeda punch, and how tough is Farmer?
Yeah.
Because Zepeda, he certainly can throw some punches, almost 1,000 punches over 12 rounds. But did he ever really hurt Farmer in a way that was going to make him, stay hurt?
Farmer's tough. He said in some of the pre-fight interviews, he's like, man, I can't really be hurt to the body. I just take body shots. And he proved it. I mean, because Zepeda was going downstairs a lot. And Farmer looked pretty unfazed. And he was taking the heat off of a lot of them, turning and burning. And, I thought Farmer looked great. Zepeda definitely did much better in this fight than the last one. No controversy. I thought Farmer edged the last one by a round or two. No doubt in this one. But I think Zepeda still lost both of them in some way, because he's in line to fight Shakur, and I just don't think there's a lot of excitement for that, because, it's not a 1-to-1 comparison between Farmer and Shakur, but they're both more defensive, sharpshooting-minded fighters. But I think most people would agree Shakur is the better version of that, and Farmer looked like he kind of squeaked by Farmer, or Zepeda looked like he kind of squeaked by Farmer, so why see him in there with Shakur?
Yeah, he's always going to struggle with that style, and Shakur is a more refined version of that style, a little sharper, and with more experience, frankly. Farmer will come out and say it. I started late in the sport. I don't have a ton of experience. I didn't come up as a child boxer. Well, Shakur is that guy. He is the guy who came up as a child, and through the whole system. He's got tons of experience, and he's got the skill to do it. If his hands can stay together, then he could really hurt him, because Zepeda's there to get hit. In the 12th round, holy smokes, I thought, wow, we're going to see a fucking huge upset here as Farmer turns this around and drops him and stops him. Now, the non-knockdown that was a knockdown, you watch the replay, it was kind of around the back of the head, and so I had a bit of a push-pull grab, kind of like David Benavidez's knockdown. It wasn't a hurting punch. It was just what happened. And in the moment, if there's a punch, and then a guy who's on the ground, which could be technically ruled a knockdown. But they didn't, and that's okay, because the right guy won, I think, and that would have made it just even more complicated if they would have had to, how to tabulate the scores on that.
It would have been a draw, because you had 114, 114, 116, 112, but then you had 115, 113, and you get that.
So majority draw?
Well, maybe not, because he just would have been a point up, right? Because he probably gave him the 12th round, so it would have gone from a 10-9 to a 10-8. So he still would have won. Zepeda still would have won.
And I think the right guy won there. I mean, I liked his ability to try to deny the clinch and shuck off Farmer's attempts to hold and
he did
smother.
it in a cool way by bringing his hands together on his chest so they were on the inside, and which is a super dangerous thing to do. I mean, he was completely unguarded, but then he just pushed his hands apart and kind of opened up the bear hug, and that was it.
Yeah, and the crowd, I told you, the Mexican crowd was going crazy. Every time Zepeda started getting some success with Farmer backed up to the ropes, the crowd was just going nuts.
Yeah.
And they could feel it and smell it even all the way from this far away, like the energy and the excitement. They really wanted to see their man stop him. But really, like I said, the story of the fight is Farmer's toughness. And he tried so hard to hold that gate closed. What a hell of a gatekeeper. He almost held it closed. Two fights in a row.
He should be proud of it.
He's holding that gate back so hard, and like you said, he squeezed through. He pushed the door open just far enough to squeak through. He didn't blast through the door like we saw Brian Norman do and stand there in the remnants of the shattered wooden door and say, "I'm here."
Right.
We saw him just barely squeak through. Credit to Farmer for being a really talented boxer and making it so hard on him. I was a little heartbroken by his post-fight speech about how he can't keep doing this and keep getting these bad decisions. Though I don't think he won the fight, I still kind of the guy has had a tough career.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to, when you're gonna buy a whatever Nissan Altima, and then you just see a Nissan Altima on every corner, right? Because that's got to be how it feels for him. Like, you get a bad decision after another, which he's had more than a few. I mean, I thought he beat Marataya. I thought he beat Zepeda the first, and it's like, fuck, man. All right, now every time I lose a decision, it's gonna feel unjust. This one definitely was not that, but. I mean, I don't know that the judges played a part in that. I'd say the ring size did. It was clear who had the negotiating power. How about we do the next one in Mexico, and how about the ring is 5 feet by 5 feet? It's like, Farmer's sitting there and like, fuck, man, all right, Jesus. I mean, he'd spin out of there and get some lateral movement, and he'd move 2 steps and be on the other rope.
Yeah, and what could he have done with a fully healthy body, He was pretty classy about not digging into... He didn't do the thing, I'm not going to make any excuses, but my hand...
He said my list of excuses.
He just straight up said, we're not going to talk about the hand.
Yeah.
And
I didn't want this to happen, but... Because it was early, it was the 3rd round, and isn't it it's a no contest, right? If you throw the towel in that early for that, before it's not final until the 4th round.
Depends on where you're at. Depends on what the sanctioning body is. But the standard is if the fight is stopped for the 4th round, by some kind of doctor stoppage, then it's going to go to a no contest. Anything after goes to the cards, but it has to be the doctor stopping the fight.
Which they probably would if you called him over and were like, dude, my elbow's broken, I can't feel my fingers, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I didn't want to see that, but if you're Farmer and you're probably looking to win the fight on points, I think you got to be like, well, shit, I just dropped 3 rounds, right? Or even 2 rounds because my hand was fucked up, and I don't know that I can come back from that deficit. I'm trying to win this fight by 1 round. Every round counts that much. But maybe you're worried they won't run it back. They won't give you another option, opportunity, whatever it is. I thought looking at the punch stats, it's just, I don't think it tells the story of the fight at all. It's so funny when you look at that. Zepeda, 344 landed punches, landed 35% of his total punches. Like you say, close to 1,000 thrown. Farmer, less than half the number of punches landed, 152, and worse accuracy, only 22%. But man, I give Farmer, I don't know, 3-1 in terms of the meaningfulness of every punch. I mean, he was snapping Zepeda's head back. And again, I always say this, but at the end of the fight, if no one's down, I always think, if it's going to the scorecards, I always think if the fight kept going, who would win? And to me, Farmer looked like he was dominating and would ultimately stop Zepeda. It didn't look like Zepeda would ever stop Farmer.
Yeah, and that's what I mean when I said he used every trick in the book to stay in the fight, because he didn't try to beat the guy at his own game and so, we're going to throw punches, let's just throw punches. No, he was smothering with the long guard. He would switch and smother on the inside. And then he would spin out or do some kind of weird footwork thing and head movement, and then wham! Clean scoring punches. It can make
Big old uppercuts.
Boom. He was throwing that uppercut like crazy, like
and
almost
it was
leaping.
Brutal, man. I'm looking at Zepeda like, bro, does that not hurt? Because it looks like it hurts. And do you like have nothing? You have no idea how to not get hit with that? That's what bothers me so much about that pressure style. Is it's like there's no in-fight evolution or even between-fight evolution of those fighters. It's like, this is what I do. And yeah, it sucks when I get hit, but there's obviously nothing I can do about it. And I'm like, there for sure is. There are things you can do.
Well, I always say in the gym, a boxer is most vulnerable to get hit when they're hitting. If all you ever do is defend yourself, you're rarely going to get hit. If all you ever do is punch, you're really open to get hit. So he gets hit in between a lot because he's so busy punching. He's not back home defending. So he's going to have that face full of defense kind of way, like he got a bloody nose and stuff. They don't even care. They say, yeah, that's what happens. I'm sure every sparring session he probably gets the bloody nose. It's the Mexican way, and that's why the fans were so in love with that performance,
Sure. But you can look at boxers who have defense built into their offense, right? I mean, look at obviously anyone peekaboo style, Mike Tyson, where you're throwing a punch and you're moving your head off the center line as you do it.
Yeah, but Tyson wasn't throwing 85 punches around.
That's true. It's more punches. It just seems like if you want to constantly have your hands in motion, then on every snapshot that gets taken, I want to see the non-throwing hand in a defensive position, and I want to see your head off the line.
Yeah. An interesting thing happens, too, when you throw a lot of punches without full commitment, without dedication to power, it diminishes your form and leaves you even more vulnerable. It just happened at the gym today right now. We had a sparring session. We got some beginners in there. I'm teaching them how to box. One of these boxers keeps getting counterpunched because they're not actually throwing the punch. They're so green, they're being too nice. They're afraid to hit or whatever. So I have to coach them through this and get them to a comfortable place. Because if you throw a 1-2 and you don't rotate your shoulders and crouch over your left foot a little bit and get that shoulder all the way up and that elbow, everything out where it's supposed to be, then you're just throwing this little T-Rex punch with this huge opening for a counter hook. So, if you're going to throw a lot of punches, you got to throw them right. You got to throw them well. But I think it's an efficiency issue as well. Like the guy knows he's going to throw a lot of punches, so he's not going to put a lot of snap on all of them. We saw that happen in Fulton's last fight against Figueroa. The guy threw a lot of punches, but it didn't look like they were doing nothing.
Right.
And then it's on the counterpuncher to find the punches in between to capitalize on it. So,
which I get, right? You touch, boom, and then you hit him with the real shot. But it's a great point. If all those touches are just little arm punches that are coming not fully extended, not fully up, your shoulders aren't shrugged and your chin isn't tucked, yeah, you're just basically standing there like a scarecrow to get hit. And that's what it looked like, man. His head was just it's like watching Ryan Garcia work that little bobblehead back, just bat. Like,
yeah, and it comes from the initial coaching style, like the initial fighting style. And if it's effective as an amateur, you're going to be encouraged to do it more. If it's effective as a pro, you're going to be encouraged to do it more. And a certain kind of boxer is always going to struggle with that. A certain kind of boxer is going to hate that opponent.
Yeah,
probably 2/3 of boxers are not going to be able to handle that amount of output, even without the power. Some guys would rather have a guy who throws less but throws harder because you can just kind of work a little more and be a little cuter and shit. But big credit for Farmer for overcoming the adversity of all those punches coming at him and the adversity of the hand damage and the opponent's backyard and the hostile crowd and all the odds against him, the small ring. And his performance definitely doesn't reflect the cards, and the fight fans are always going to respect him for what he's been able to accomplish, and hopefully we can see him come back and keep working.
Yeah, 100%. I really enjoy watching him fight. Well, we got a pack for Vegas, And
That's
we
a
got to do
fact.
some research. Maybe we end it here and jump in with a 2-episode week and really break down this Top Rank card coming up that we're going to be at.
Yeah, man. That's sounds like a plan. I guess I better get back to the gym and start packing up my sparring equipment. Getting ready to travel.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be our viral clip. I'm just going to challenge everybody to press
favor
row,
you. I'd
press
favor-
row,
Yeah.
throwdown.
Yeah. Right now, 2 30-second rounds.
I'll just be like, I bet you can't slip my jab. Richard Torres Jr.
Richard Torres, here we
I
go.
bet you can't see. He's like, whoa, I thought this was press row. Be like, press row just got real excited.
Pressing your fucking line. Maybe that's our thing. We just break out the mitts right there.
Yeah, every trainer in the world is going to hate us. No, we're going to be classy. We'll be nice. And keep your
Coach
eye out
is
for
gonna
us.
be classy.
When you're watching the fights, keep your eye out for the 2 best looking guys on press row. We'll be standing out like we
We'll be
always
standing
do.
right next to them. All right. All right, rock and roll. Anything else? Anything else we got to talk about?
Nah.
News? Hey, my favorite boxer of all time, Deontay Wilder, is coming back.
What?
He's got a fight in like Wichita, I think.
Going back to Wichita. Okay.
Let me see. Let me look it up so I don't spread false information. He's fighting Tyrell Hendon. Yeah, in Wichita.
All right, let's go. Bronze Bomber back in action.
I don't know what's going to come of this, but this is a get-right fight for sure. I love Hendon shared this photo of him with Deontay like 7 or 8 years ago, and he was like manifesting like idols turn into rivals. And it's like, oh, there you go. You got your opportunity.
Wow. Okay. Well,
Yeah. I know the contract states Deontay has to be high on ayahuasca while they fight. So
hey, now, this is in Kansas. I don't think they allow anything in Kansas.
I don't know. There's some reservations there, right? It's got to be legal somewhere.
That's true. That's
Yeah,
true.
you'll hit them up. It's going to be interesting. I had just for sure like negotiated with myself that Wilder's like out of the picture. But if he comes back and gets a classic Wilder knockout, just like he did Hellenius, immediately people are going to say, okay, all right, him and AJ, let's go. Best of the rest.
Yeah.
Right?
No, there's still, the heavyweights, there's still a lot of action to unfold as the next generation is coming up quickly underneath these superstars.
Yeah.
And we'll be seeing some of them next weekend down at the Top Rank show.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be reporting live on one of the best upcoming heavyweights in the business. So,
Which one is that?
well,
It's going to be shots fired either way.
you got to tune in and see.
Ooh, tune in later this week to catch our predictions. I did put some money on Farmer because I had to, but we are 6 for 6 over the past 2 weeks on picks.
Okay.
So let's keep that streak going.
That train rolling, man.
All right, until next time, I'm Dust.
I'm Coach.
And that's boxing.